with that out of the way, we can dive right in and talk about this Pacers game when they as they matched up against the Milwaukee Bucks. So no Dame, no Giannis. This was supposed to be an extremely winnable game for the Pacers, but it ended up being a Bucks blowout. They ended up winning 115-92. And they had several players end up scoring double digits. And a lot of players filled up the stat sheet for the Milwaukee Bucks. This is the first team in NBA history to ever win a playoff game without two of the team's best scorers. And that's obviously, really impressive. And that's obviously, really bad if you're Indiana, because here was your chance to close out the series. Obviously, they didn't play at home, so they do have a much better chance to close out the series since Game 6 is going to be in Indiana. But other than that, this was a really embarrassing way to go out. Chris Middleton ended the game with 29 points and 12 rebounds. Bobby Portis ended the game with 29 points and 10 rebounds. Patrick Beverley ended with 13 points and 12 assists. Brook Lopez ended with 12 points. Malik Beasley ended the game with 18 points. And let me just go ahead and look at the bench real quick. Yeah, that was basically it in terms of scoring for the Milwaukee Bucks. Now, obviously, this kind of just goes back to what I've been saying about the Pacers and their defense. And their lack of wanting to play defense in key moments of the game, because throughout the game when I was watching, there were several easy wide open looks that the Pacers were giving the Bucks players, and a lot of them again they didn't really shoot that well from three, the Milwaukee Bucks, but the Pacers, they didn't really shoot that well from three either. They did make more threes than the Bucks, but they did not shoot that well from the field, and they also did not shoot that well from three. And the fact that they were giving the Bucks a lot of easy shots and a lot of opportunities to score while they weren't scoring, it was really just a bad defensive effort coming in from the Pacers, because if you're not going to score, or if you're not able to score, you should at least be able to stop the other team from scoring a lot of points and going on big runs. In the second quarter, so the Pacers in the first quarter, they were up 31-23, to end the first quarter. So at first, I thought this was going to be easy for Indiana. But then they only scored 17 points in the second quarter, while the Bucks scored 30. Then the Bucks scored 34 to open up the second half, and the Pacers only scored 19. And by the time that happened, the game was never close. And the fourth quarter, they ended up almost matching, so the Bucks scored 28 and the Pacers scored 25. So the game wasn't really close after the second half. Well, not the second half, but after the second quarter, the game was never really close. And it's how does this happen? And how does it's really just I know how this happened, but it's when you have that kind of momentum and you win 3 games in a row, your offense is usually supposed to carry into the next few games, and you're not really supposed to drop the next game after you win 3 in a row. But that's unfortunately what ended up happening for the Pacers, and I was really surprised. Even though the Bucks were the home team, I was really surprised that the Pacers ended up dropping this game, and they were just playing really bad. And Halliburton ended the game with 16 points, so he's far from the player that a lot of people thought he was. He was 6 for 14 from the field. Miles Turner ended the game with 13 points. He was 6 of 9 from the field. Siakam ended with 12 points, 5 of 12 from the field. He really slowed down in these in the latter of these playoff games compared to in the beginning of the playoff series where he was like dropping 30 points. He's really like he hasn't had that same production going into these games. Now, TJ McConnell, he ended the game 3 of 10 from the field, and Aaron Nesmith ended the game 3 of 9 from the field. Obi Toppin ended 3 of 7 from the field, and there's just a lot of people that were just shooting very inefficiently for the Pacers, and a lot more people shooting a little bit more efficiently on the Bucks side. I mean, Bobby Portis in that 14 of 24. I mean, that was okay. I mean, he ended up he only ended up scoring 5 more points than shot attempts, but he barely took that many threes. So, it makes sense, and it's not really, especially like when you have Chris Middleton, who's also playing really well and scoring 29 points. It's really difficult to beat that, and the team did not shoot that well from 3. Again, 11 for 29 from 3. That's not really that good. That's decent, but it's not like really good for a team. But it ended up resulting in them getting the win. But now they're looking to play Indiana in Indiana in Game 6, and I'm not going to pick who I think is going to win because, again, I did that last time and I ended up being horribly wrong on the last 2 teams that I mentioned because, like I said, I thought the Knicks were going to make it out, but they ended up not making it out. They're still playing in their series. I thought the Knicks were going to end their series in 5 games, but that ended up not happening. And now I thought the Pacers were going to end their series in 5 games, but that's not happening. But the Pacers, they do have a bit of a better chance of beating the Bucks now and closing out the series than I think the Knicks do in closing out the 76ers. Because the Sixers, they still have their 2 best players playing in the series. They are going into the next game coming off of stealing a game and having home court advantage. And not only that, but Tyrese Maxey has been playing a lot better in the postseason games. And Joel Embiid, I mean, he hasn't really been playing that good, but I mean, he's been solid for the Sixers, even though he has come off of an injury. So compared to the situation that the Pacers are in, where they're going into the elimination game with home court advantage, the Bucks, while they did win 1 game, they still don't have Damian Lillard or Giannis Antetokounmpo, and the Pacers, with that home field advantage, and the fact that none of the players have been injured, they have a lot of the momentum going forward. Now, the one thing that could sort of hold them back, I guess, is that embarrassing loss, but I'm not entirely sure if that team is going to take it that personally. I think they're just going to, they'll take it with a grain of salt, and then they'll continue their merry way, and they'll continue strutting along into the postseason. And I mean, the thought is that they're going to end up playing in the second round against the Boston Celtics. And I feel like that's when, I mean, the Celtics right now, they're sort of struggling. Well, not really struggling against the Heat because they are up 3-1, but they did surprisingly lose Game 2, which was the big surprise of that series, and the only reason why I say that they're struggling against the Heat, because, and it's kind of funny saying that a team that is looking to beat them in 5 games is struggling against, and that just shows just how dominant of a team the Boston Celtics really are. But I feel like the Pacers, they might be a little bit easier on the defensive side of the ball. they'll be a lot easier to score on for the Celtics. Like, the Celtics will have a much easier time scoring on these Pacers than they will, because the Miami Heat, they're a team that's had a lot of pride in their defense for a while, and this Pacers team has a lot of pride in the pace of their offense. And I feel like the Celtics are basically going to match to that pacing because they shoot a lot of three-pointers. And so when the Pacers will shoot, the Pacers will run down the floor rather quickly, and then the Celtics will also run down the floor rather quickly. And I feel like it's just going to be three-pointer after three-pointer after three-pointer. That's sort of the team that the Celtics are. They rely on the three-pointer a lot. So I feel like this series the series against them is going to be very fast-paced. But we still have to get through Game 6, which is going to happen tomorrow. For both the Knicks and the Pacers. So I think the Pacers, they have a better chance of winning in Game 6, but we'll see how the series plays out, and we'll see how it goes. But hopefully the Knicks can close the series out, actually. And that's basically all I have to say for this second segment. So now we will go ahead and go into the third segment, where I will talk about the Cavs and the Orlando Magic and their matchup in Game 5. Now with the Cavs leading in the series 3-2. So I will be right back after this short break.
Looking for your daily fix of sports talk without having to pay for it? GSMC Sports Network is available on YouTube. Just search GSMC Sports Network. Get your fix of daily sports talk shows on YouTube, absolutely free. NFL, college football, NBA, MLB, MMA, UFC, fantasy football, and so much more. GSMC Sports Network has shows running all day long, with new sports shows starting every 2 hours. Just like on your favorite cable sports channel, except GSMC Sports Network is absolutely free. Just search GSMC Sports Network on YouTube to catch one of your new favorite shows, like the GSMC College Football Podcast, Chip Shot Football Podcast, Hoops and Heels Women's Sports Podcast, GSMC Basketball Podcast, and so many more. Check it out for yourself. GSMC Sports Network, now available on YouTube absolutely free. Search GSMC Sports Network on YouTube right now.